Let's talk about setbacks. Setbacks can be really confronting, really confusing, and really frustrating. When you have worked extremely hard at stretching out the edges of your comfort zone and learning to get to know your fear and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations in order to learn how to get comfortable with discomfort, it can really rock your boat emotionally and physically when you experience a setback and you feel like you've just gone backwards in all your progress. You feel like everything you've worked hard for has been ruined or has been for nothing, and you kind of start to feel like you're never going to get better, and it's always going to be this one step forward, two steps back. I've been through so many setbacks myself, and I know how frustrating it can feel, especially when a setback seems like it's affecting not just your life, but the people around you. It's one thing when you have dealt with anxiety and panic for a long time and you've been stuck for a long time and you feel like you haven't gone anywhere, like that can be frustrating enough in and of itself. But then when you've actually started working really hard at getting yourself back out there, only to feel like you've gone back to square one, that can be a whole other thing. And it feels like there's a lot more pressure at that point to sort of bounce back quickly, especially when it comes to those people around you and your relationships, your close relationships, your friendships, your work relationships. It kind of um, feels like you have more to lose because you've worked so hard at getting to a certain place and now people seem to expect certain things of you. And so when you go backwards, it's like not only do you have your own disappointment and the pressure that you put on yourself, but it feels like you have everyone else's eyes on you as well and everyone else's expectations on you. And it really just creates the perfect storm where you feel lost and you feel hopeless. Setbacks can come along from like many different reasons. It can be, a big event that sort of impacted you and shook you and reminded you what it feels like to feel terrified. And so then everything became really panicky again. Or you can experience a setback from something really small, like something from like being unwell for a little bit of time, having like a tummy virus or a bug or whatever. I experienced a really significant setback like years back, when I went out on a date and I got blind drunk, which is not recommended, by the way. And then the next morning, I had a really bad hangover combined with a really bad panic attack. And that combo was brutal. And I felt like I was back at square one and was going to go back to being housebound again. And honestly, I have had so many times along my journey with anxiety where I have probably said the words, "It feels like I'm just going to keep coming back here. Like, I'm so tired of doing this. I'm so tired of learning this lesson. I'm so tired of being back here." So I get it. I get the frustration of it. I get the desperation of it. And I'm here to help you with that. I really want to flip your perspective on setbacks, because a lot of life, I'm learning as I go on in my 35 years, a lot of life is down to perspective. Um, you know, Two people can be in the same situation and one can see it completely differently and they can experience it completely differently. And so it's not to say that perspective is everything, but perspective certainly counts for a lot of how we are able to move through life and how we use what we've learned through life. So when it comes to setbacks, I really want you to remember that that whole concept of one step forward, two steps back is not accurate at all. It feels accurate, but it's not. Because here's the thing, you have learned so much in your one step forward. I can absolutely guarantee it. You know things now that you didn't know back then when you first started out. And so to say you feel like you've gone right back to the start again is completely inaccurate and completely untrue. It may feel like that, but it's not that same situation because you know different things now. And so instead of looking at it as two steps backward or even one step backward, I want you to look at it as a sidestep. I know this is like a very subtle shift, but I think it's really important. When you look at a setback as a sidestep instead of going backwards, it helps you to remember that maybe there was something in this terrain that you are here to learn that you didn't quite learn when you first moved forward. Maybe there's more for you to explore here. There's more for you to expand upon. There's more about yourself and about your journey and where you're here to go that you need to uncover before you can keep moving forward. So it's not that you've gone backwards, it's that you've taken a little hop to the side, or maybe a little more of a hop to the side, and you're figuring out things over here before you move forwards again. So your journey in life isn't just going to be one straight line from birth to death. It's going to be a whole, like, snake movement, roller coaster, up and down, side to side, all over the place. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You're not always supposed to just go directly forward. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. You are supposed to learn things along the way, and you're supposed to explore different aspects of yourself as you do it. So don't look at a setback as that you've gone backwards. Look at it as that there is more lessons here for you to learn. There's more here for you to uncover. And the great part about it is that you get to uncover it with this new perspective that you achieved in your hop forwards. The other way that I want you to look at a setback is, you know how in life when you wish that you could go back with the knowledge that you have now and do things differently? There are so many things in my life that I wish I could go back and do again. Like, just, yeah, so many times where I'm like, oh, I wish I had acted differently. Obviously, we can't time travel, we can't go back into the past and do things again, but a setback is going to be the closest thing that you get to a do-over. It's going to be the closest opportunity that you have to make a different decision based off the knowledge that you have now. So say that you were housebound and you worked really hard at getting yourself out of the house. Well done. That's amazing. Go you. So you started getting out of the house with a little bit of regularity, and then something happened that caused you to go backwards, and you are now becoming afraid to leave the house again. And you're at home thinking, holy fuck, I don't want to do this again. It was so hard to work through the first time. I don't want to start at square one again. I don't want to be housebound again. I don't want to do this. And you're feeling hopeless and desperate. I want you to think that this is your opportunity to do things differently this time. This is your opportunity to, instead of what you did last time, which was, presumably be afraid and spend a lot of time at home, understandably given the circumstances, this time you get to choose to act in a different way, to choose a different path, and to see where that gets you. And in the beginning, it might feel like it's getting you the same place as last time. That's okay. It's not going to be the same situation. You just have to keep going. But you get to have a do-over. You get to choose a path again, make a different choice, do a different action, act in a different way that you did last time, with the knowledge that you have now. And this is an amazing thing. I always try to think of a setback now in this way, in that, like, yes, it's annoying that I'm having these panic attacks again and I'm feeling this stuff again. And yes, I'm tired of this and all of that. I acknowledge all of that. I allow those feelings to be there. Those feelings are valid. They're okay. But I remind myself that this is my opportunity to do it differently. This is my opportunity to learn something new, and my opportunity to make a different choice than what I did last time, and to see what happens. And in that respect, a setback is actually really a fucking awesome thing. The other perspective I like to have about a setback is to look at it as the universe saying to you, pause, start again, see what you have learnt. And I know this kind of builds on the first perspective shift that I was talking about, but in this respect, I want you to think of it as like a way to test your skills, a way to test your knowledge. This is how you can actually put what you've learned to the test and go, okay, I'm going to use everything that I've learned, and I'm going to see how it actually translates to real life. Because the thing is, we can learn as much as we want. We can consume all this knowledge. There's so much, knowledge available to us these days with the internet and social media, and there's just knowledge coming at us from every angle, and we're taking it all in and we're learning it all. But I don't know if a lot of us are actually putting it into practice. It's one thing to learn something, but it's another thing to really like use that knowledge and remember it. And we generally don't remember knowledge unless we act it out. That's why it's really helpful when you learn something new to write it down, because it kind of commits that that learning to your brain, because the act of writing it down means you have to sort of have to repeat it. Another good way to learn something is to repeat it to someone else in your own words. If you can repeat something that you've learned in your own words, if you can explain it to somebody else, then you have probably really understood that knowledge, and that then you can use it in your own life. So this is your chance to go, okay, I'm going to use what I've learned, and I'm actually going to test my knowledge on the subject. So all the things you've learned about panic and anxiety, all the things you've learned about fear, all the things you've learned about you and how to support yourself and nurture yourself through anxiety and panic, this is your chance to be able to use that information. And remind yourself of it however you need to. Maybe write it down every morning, go through like a journal and say, this is what I've learned in my years so far, and these are the practices that I need to put into practice every day in order to help myself through this setback, and see what happens. See how you go. I guarantee this is going to be where you go, I actually know a lot more than I thought I did. And this also might help you maybe to be able to share your knowledge with somebody else. Maybe you put it into a book, maybe you start making your own videos, maybe you write a course, maybe you do something to help other people with panic and anxiety. Because if there's anything I've found, like in working with people who deal with panic and anxiety, they all pretty much have a desire to want to help other people through it, because they know how lonely and challenging it can be. So put your stuff into practice, write it down, write yourself a guide on how you're going to get out of this setback, and then you'll have usable information that you can use not just for you, but for somebody else. And it's a great way for you to learn it, and it's a great way for them to learn it. And you know what? The world needs more people who are like, here's how I did this, here's how you can do it too. We all need to have like roadmaps in our lives. I hope those perspective shifts on setbacks are helpful. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things. Someone on Instagram messaged me and said their perspective on a setback is that you wouldn't have had a setback if you hadn't moved forward. So I think that's also a really good way to look at it. But overall, I just want you to know that setbacks in life are normal. I really want you to think of them as side steps though, not setbacks, because you haven't gone back to where you were, you haven't started again. And if it is really feeling like you've started again, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Like maybe there was more for you to learn, maybe there's more for you to uncover, and maybe your journey is about to go in a different way that you weren't expecting. So don't give up, keep going, stay with it. And I promise you, in the future, this setback won't seem like a setback. It'll seem like somewhere where you really learn more about yourself and more about your journey and more about what you're here to do. Hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next time.